The accidental call. It was late when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen and saw my wife's name. A warm smile spread across my face as I answered, "Hey, babe." But she didn't respond. Instead, I heard laughter, low whispers, and then a voice that wasn't mine. "I can't believe you're really here," the man chuckled. What if he finds out? My stomach twisted into knots. My breath hitched in my throat. She hadn't meant to call me. She must have accidentally hit my number while fumbling with her phone. And now, I was listening to a conversation I was never supposed to hear. A nightmare unfolds. For a few seconds, I sat frozen, hoping I had misheard. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe there was an explanation. Then I heard her voice. "Relax," she whispered, her tone soft and teasing. "He has no idea." My entire world shattered in an instant. I clenched the phone in my trembling hand, my mind racing. Every late night work excuse, every distant glance, every moment of doubt. It all made sense now. She was cheating. And she had just confirmed it in the cruelest way possible, a choice to make. I could have hung up. I could have confronted her right then and there. Instead, I listened. "You drive me crazy," the man said. She murmured. "I wish we had more time." A sharp pain stabbed through my chest. I had heard enough. I ended the call and stared at the ceiling, numb. The woman I loved, the woman I had trusted with my life, was in the arms of another man, completely unaware that she had just exposed herself. The confrontation. That night, I didn't sleep. I waited for her to come home, my mind replaying the call over and over. When she finally walked through the door, she smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey, babe," she said, kicking off her heels. "How was your night?" I stared at her, my jaw clenched. "You tell me." She frowned. "What?" I held up my phone. "You called me. By accident." Her face turned pale. I. What are you talking about?" "I heard everything," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Every. Single. Word." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Guilt washed over her face like a wave. "Who is he?" I demanded. She looked down, tears welling in her eyes. "It was a mistake," I scoffed. "A mistake? You've been lying to me for God knows how long, and you got caught because you weren't careful enough." She reached for my hand. "Please let me explain." I pulled away. "There's nothing to explain. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." The aftermath. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some wounds never heal. That night, I packed a bag and walked out the door, leaving behind the life I thought I had. She begged me to stay, told me she'd end it, swore she still loved me. But love doesn't betray. Love doesn't whisper another man's name when it thinks no one is listening. And love doesn't call you by accident. Second story, double life. Yesterday, Victor was a confident man, certain that no challenge could break him. He was a successful manager in a large company, ran his own business on the side, and always put his family first. But one morning, everything changed. Victor decided to surprise his wife, Emily, by making breakfast. He wasn't much of a cook, but every now and then he liked to do something nice for her just to feel a little closer. When he arrived home early, he noticed the door wasn't locked. That was odd. Emily was always careful, especially in the mornings when she'd usually be drinking coffee and getting ready for work. He pushed the door open slightly and heard strange sounds coming from the bedroom. The room was dark. He immediately walked over to the window and opened the blinds, and that's when his eyes landed on something that would be burned into his memory forever. Emily was in bed, but there was someone else with her. A man, tall and lean, with dark hair and no shirt. Victor felt his heart sink. He stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. The man, unaware of Victor's presence, turned slightly in his direction. Their eyes met for a split second. It was the moment everything shifted. Emily jumped up, hastily pulling the sheets around her, and started speaking quickly, but Victor couldn't focus on her words. All he could feel was the overwhelming sense of betrayal washing over him, the ground beneath him giving way. "Victor, it's not what you think," Emily cried out, trying to cover herself. Victor stood in silence, barely hearing her, his mind racing. The image of the man in their bed wouldn't leave him. He couldn't believe it. They'd been married for 10 years. Victor had always believed they had a solid relationship, But now, in this moment, everything seemed like a lie. Who is he? Victor finally managed to ask, his voice low and shaking. Emily paused, her face pale. His name is Daniel. We've been seeing each other for a while now. Victor could barely breathe. His legs felt weak, and he staggered back a few steps, trying to make sense of what was happening. A while? How long? How could you do this to me? Emily's face contorted with guilt. Victor, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to find out this way. I didn't know how to tell you. Victor's mind was spinning. Tell me? So this is something you've been hiding, something you've been doing behind my back? For how long? A year, she whispered. A year. The words hit Victor like a slap in the face. A year of lies. A year of deception. The life he thought he was living, the life they had built together, was all a facade. He didn't know what to feel: anger, confusion, disbelief. Daniel slowly sat up on the bed, still half dressed, watching the exchange between them with an unreadable expression. He had been the shadow in their marriage, the man Emily had been seeing in secret, and now Victor knew the truth. You need to leave, Victor said, his voice trembling but firm. Both of you. I don't want to see either of you right now. Emily looked at him with pleading eyes. Victor, please, don't make this harder than it already is. I never wanted to hurt you. Victor shook his head. I can't do this. You've already done enough. Leave now. Daniel didn't argue. He grabbed his shirt off the floor and left the room without a word, disappearing out the front door. Emily stood there, not knowing what to say next. Victor turned his back to her. I need time to think. Please just leave me alone for now. She didn't move, but her silence spoke volumes. After a long, unbearable moment, Emily finally whispered, I'm sorry. Victor didn't answer. He couldn't. His world had just been shattered, and the woman he thought he knew, the woman he'd married, was no longer the person he had believed her to be. As Emily left the room, Victor stood frozen. He could hear the sound of her footsteps fading down the hallway, but it was as if they were taking him further away from the life he had once known.